And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the third, some would say, rebooted episode of formerly known as Manga Bros. I decided to change it because why the hell not? My name is Giovanni Menendez, and you might know me from Omnibroslive and from my channel and from other cool stuff. And I wanted to continue the formerly show Manga Bros, and I wanted to continue it because it's been a while. Last episode that we did was back in February or March, somewhere along those dates. And yeah, I'm just really excited to be here. Hopefully, everybody's doing well. We're back talking about a very famous anime that recently came back into the public spotlight, but I am not going to talk about it by myself because that would be lonely and kind of boring. Instead, I brought two of my best friends to talk about some otaku goodness and Evangelion, and I will let them present themselves. How you doing, guys?
Hey.
What's up, Gio?
How you doing? I'm doing well, man.
Doing pretty damn good.
So
I'm
yeah,
excited to talk some manga, talk some Eva, talk some anime, some otaku stuff.
Awesome. Love it. Adonis,
What's
and of
up?
course, Nelson. Nelson, you're still putting out content on your channel, right?
Because
we
very
do want to
slowly,
plug that.
but surely, I am putting up hauls on there every couple months or so.
Awesome. Yeah, welcome to Otakubros, everybody. Guys, have you hauled anything? Any cool manga or anime that the people should know about?
I do have a little back over there.
All right, what you get? Let us know.
Let me see.
Also, everybody watching in the chat, thank you so much for joining. This was completely, I'm going to say, 80% improvised. I've been teasing about it with the bros for a while now, and I just kept delaying it for weird reasons, but here we are. So thank you for the support. Thank you for the love. I know that it has been requested, and I am very happy to do that. We will have different, like a rotating panel. There are other members for this manga-themed live stream show, so you will see them. I don't like originally the plan was once a month, but if we can do it at a quicker pace, I might want to do it at least twice a month if that's possible. If not, we'll just.
I'm gonna be live every day.
Yeah, hell yeah, that would be awesome.
Tune in to watch me be stupid.
But yeah, very happy to be here, and thank you for everybody for supporting the idea of a manga live stream inside the Omnibus Collectors Network. So. Yeah, very happy about that.
To be fair, there are such things as omnibus editions of manga. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Get right in.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that eventually. We want to cover all the basics. We want to talk about like your One Piece and your Berserk, Grand Blue Dreaming, all those titles that you guys love. I want to discuss them on this live stream eventually. So yeah, today we're starting with Evangelion, but let's not get up our head ourselves. We were talking about hauls. Sorry about that. Nelson, sorry, I caught you off.
No, not at all. You do the intro because I can't do it. All right. So here's what I got. I've gotten a lot of stuff, but I haven't been getting a lot of stuff because, as a lot of you guys know, I'm moving, so I'm trying not to get a lot of stuff. But there was still some stuff on the way. So this is what I got. I got Ran and The Great World Volume 3. Really like the first two volumes, despite a little annoying little tidbit there. I got The Grand Blue Dreaming Volume 6, which everyone knows and loves. I got Inside Mary Volume 4, which is coming out, and I think there should be like 9 or 10 volumes. So, and it's already finished in Japan. They're just publishing it here, so I'm looking forward to that. And I got the second volume of Gleipnir to try it out again, because I was a little bit iffy on the first one. I already read it, and I'm still a little bit iffy on it. I'm going to give it like one more volume, maybe. And the last thing I got was the Silent Voice box set. Because it might still be for like $30. So if it's still on sale, you should probably go get it.
Nice.
And that's it. I also got the first four Pokemon box sets, but I'm not going to pull those out because they're in a box already.
Yeah, last episode we talked about Pokemon, episode 2. So
yeah. And then I had to go and get them again. Like, they got me excited, especially Ryley talking about the manga. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to go get it again.
Cool. Adonis, how about yourself? You hauled anything?
I haven't been hauling hard all lately. I don't know if you guys remember. There was a point in time where I was pulling in like 20 volumes or more a week or so. But I bought a car recently, so I've had to, all my play money has had to be responsible money. So now I just have to be slightly more selective with what I buy. So on the way, I have Berserk Volume 2. Like, I want to say sometime last week, I got in Golden Kamui Volume 10 and Grand Blue Dreaming Volume 6. A couple months ago, I got Evangelion 3.3 and 2.2 really cheap on the Funimation sale. So these have been sitting around up until like last week. And Evangelion coming back to Netflix, it really made me want to watch Rebuild. So I got 1.1 off Amazon, along with the first volume and the second volume of the Omnibus manga. So I guess it's still hauling.
I'm looking forward to those.
Oh yeah, I love them. They're so sick.
Well, that's those are great hauls. I haven't gotten anything. The only thing I bought, but it hasn't showed up, was My Hero Academia Vigilantes Volume 5, I think. And what was that other? The time I got reincarnated as a slime, Volume 10.
That's already a 10. Wow.
Yeah, Volume 11 just got solicited for like October. What else did I get? Oh my God, Prison School, Volume 13. We're one book away from finishing that series. And I got something else that I cannot remember. But yeah, the Vigilantes manga hasn't arrived, so I don't have it with me to show it off. But I did a haul on my channel, the latest video, where you can see some art in those manga books. But that's all I've hauled. I haven't actually been reading much lately. I've been busy with real life stuff and working on some side projects and stuff. But I will be reading and doing more manga reviews on my channel eventually. So yeah. Have you guys have you guys read anything, or should we move on to the main topic? You let me know.
What have I read? Can't even remember what I've read recently. I've been watching a lot of JoJo's. A lot.
Oh,
like, I've been making really quick progress. I'm already halfway through season 2 of part 3.
Nice.
So I'm already like, I don't know, 50 episodes in.
Wow. Yeah, I'm way behind. I've only seen the first 4 episodes.
Once I got to the end of part 2, it was just smooth sailing. I couldn't stop. Now it's almost like a comfort thing where, like, if I don't know what to do with my day, how to relax, I'll just pull up an episode and I'm good.
Oh, I need to get on that hype train. I know you guys have been on it for a while.
Get into Robot Geo.
Geo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
No, just to get in the Robot Geo, and the 5th JoJo's name is Geo.
Oh yeah, well, I've been blessed with a weird name, I guess, because I'm not Italian, but the name's Italian, so there you go.
I haven't been much of anything lately. I spent all last week binge watching Ava. I watched the Rebuild movies.
Yeah, I did that too.
You guys went full on nerd mode and watched those things. I was going to watch them, but I had some stuff to do and I never got around to it. But I do remember what happens in the series and the movies and stuff that we can talk about it. But what did you think? First of all, what do you think about Evangelion coming back to the public spotlight in the way that it did? Because everybody went crazy about it. Non-anime fans and anime fans were all in on Evangelion decades later after it first aired.
It's always nice to see like such a resurgence like that and see people just like coming together for something like that. It's almost like kind of like Pokemon Go or something. I mean, obviously not near the same scale, but it was just nice to see like everyone just come together to like watch a classic.
Yeah.
It's a shame that it did go through some troubles with the Netflix thing, the translation being changed and stuff like that. Depending how you feel about that, but overall, I mean, I'm just glad that people are able to watch it finally, and the translation thing is really not a big deal.
I mean, like the whole translation thing, a lot of people are quick to bash on it, but I understand that they have a job to do, and sometimes stuff like that happens. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't the intent of the script writers and the translators to cause a commotion, if you will. They just wanted to do the best that they could. I happen to be I don't really care what audio track I'm listening. I'll stream sub anime, but all my Blu-rays, I'll watch them dubbed because I love voice acting. That's my passion. I love voiceover, so I support the industry and stuff. But I didn't really mind it. I was, like you said, Nelson, I'm really happy that people just have the opportunity in 2019 to finally watch it, because those titles are long out of print here in the US. In North America, it's very difficult to get the DVDs or the Platinum Collection or the thin packs and stuff. So it's really fun to see that once again.
It was also really cool to see like all the people in the group like having their own reactions. That was just really cool. Bring back the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And as we know, there's lots to nitpick about Eva, lots to disagree with, but then also lots to agree with, which makes it that much more fun to discuss. Like, I know on a couple of occasions, me, Nelson, and Alex, and to some extent Gio, although Gio not as much because he wasn't watching along with us, but we talked for like an hour straight after, I had decided to go to sleep. I watched like 4 episodes already that day, and then even though I was supposed to go to sleep, I just stayed up for an extra hour just listening to Alex yell at us about Evangelion.
At one point, like Alex had to like message me, and he was like, "All right, let's not message everybody else, like, cause we're just gonna like talk way too much and spam the chat."
Yeah, I feel like it's always me. It's always me, you, Alex, and Gio that our conversations just like kick off to the point where I just bother everybody else.
It's like 200 messages. I remember a weekend, and I left for a couple hours, and then I come back. 234 messages. I'm like, what? And it's all Evangelion. I'm like, Jesus. I tried to read them all too. It was a little bit nuts.
We had like 2 days where that's all we talked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys were really into it. But that's the fun part. Yeah, like you said, it's just geeking out about a series that it's so like for 90s era or 90s kids, it's very emblematic of a niche and a subgenre like Evangelion, because you can say other series did that concept first with the giant robots and the themes of war and to an extent psychological issues, post-traumatic stress disorder, all that stuff. It's been done in the past, but I don't think nobody like hit it like Anno did with Evangelion. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's something unique about that series.
Because I don't know if the mecha genre had been deconstructed. I don't know if you could call it deconstruction, but I don't think it had gone through that treatment until that point. Maybe a previous Gainax anime. I know Gunbuster and Diebuster came out before it. I know those were probably a little unique. I haven't seen them, so I can't really speak about it. But I'm pretty sure it was kind of one of a kind when it came out.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the whole plus we've seen that with Gundam, with the war themes and the young pilots and all that stuff. But I remember when Evangelion first started, I watched it for the very first time. I'm gonna say maybe I was in the 10th grade, early 2000s. This was probably like 2002, 2003, somewhere along those dates.
I was 5 or 6 years old when Gio watched.
Oh boy! Oh boy! Now you're making me feel old. Thank you. Bless you. But yeah, I remember watching it on like the 9th or 10th grade, somewhere along that. And it just blew my mind. Like, first of all, I didn't understand what the hell was going on, but I was enjoying it because I've always been a fan of like folklore, mythology, and I wanted to be a humanities instructor / professor one day, but that all changed. That's a story for another time. But I liked the aspect that you could world build and create something out of scripture and the basis of Judo Christianity. I know that the developers said like, no, we just added all these symbols because they look cool, but there's a meaning to that. You know, you just don't pull that out of thin air, and it serves a purpose in the story because it influences how the characters behave and their intentions and all that stuff. So yeah, I remember watching that when I was a teenager. I didn't get what was going on, but I liked what I was seeing. And it's a series where the more you watch it, the more you understand. And if you watch it as an adult, you're going to get a lot of things that you didn't get when you were a kid watching it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I watched it about a year ago. Yeah, I watched it about a year ago after pressure from Nelson and Alex. You know, they pushed me to get on it, and they pushed it, and I was like, all right, guys, I'll watch it. And I was really reluctant at first, and I hated Shinji on the first episode. This was only a year ago, but I'm sure you guys remember me complaining about Shinji. And I remember talking to someone about it at work, some like random customer, because I worked at a comic book store at the time. He went on a rant about how much he hated the Christian symbolism and that he was Christian and it portrayed his beliefs in a horrible way. And at the time I didn't understand. I was just trying to kind of mad about nothing. Now that I know that Anu only did it because he thought it was cool.
The thing is, like, I'm sure it probably makes some parallels with religion, but I don't think it has any sort of message that's religious at all. I think it has like sort of like spiritual awakening themes, like from, but that's more from other religions. I feel like I don't really think it does any sort of commentary on Judeo-Christianity. At least personally, I've never looked at it from that angle, and I've looked at it through a lot of different angles, and I never really got that out of it. Mm-hmm. So I think it was really just something they did just to kind of give it a theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I'll let you go. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
No, I lost my train of thought.
Well, you were speaking about Shinji. I thought, you're supposed to be a little bit angry at the character for the decisions that he's making, but at the same time, when you go into it, a lot of people would react the same way.
Absolutely.
Because we live in a bubble where we want our main protagonist to be invincible. We want him to be like this knight in shining armor that can do no wrong and will tackle the problem head on. But this series, it took a step back and gave you a really, really flawed character dynamic all across the map. All the characters are flawed. They have terrible relationships with each other. And I found that fascinating. It didn't really bother me. Eventually, like midway point in the series, I'm like, okay, I get it, Shinji. You're upset. But at the same time, I kept understanding that the psychology of this character is very different from your regular shonen lead or even a Gundam pilot, because they are in a war situation. This is completely different. This is more apocalyptic in nature, I guess. But I didn't mind it that much, Shinji, and the other,
Yeah, no, I'm not even to interrupt you, but what you said about Gundam is after I watched Evangelion and then I watched Gundam, I watched the Origin, and then I watched 0083. Is that it? The original compilation movies? Yeah, 0083. And there's even some parallels, and like when Amuro runs away for the first time. Not really a spoiler at all, but there's at one point he will run away from the fight, and it's literally like it resembles. You can see where Ano got the we're gonna do things like regular mecha does, but just hang on, and it will get a lot weirder soon. Just hang on.
Oh man! Plus that series, man, it had the great score from Shido Sagisu, I think that's the name. He's the guy that did the Berserk score and the new Berserk score and the Bleach music and all that stuff.
Was it a different person for the rebuilds?
I think it's a mixture of old material with new stuff, I think. But he's still credited.
The sound design on those movies was amazing.
Yeah.
You guys even told me make sure you use some headphones or something because the audio is really good, and it is. There was a point where they entered this husk of I don't want to spoil anything about the movie since they are unique, but they entered this husk of a metal thing, and you can actually hear the wind passing through the husk of metal, and you couldn't hear that if you were just hearing on speakers. And I just thought that was incredible.
I was listening on I have a sound bar right underneath my TV, and I had it turned up to a decent volume, not too loud because it was late, but I did not hear any which movie was it? Was it movie 3?
The third one, yeah. That's the thing I'm talking about, yeah.
Okay. I did not hear any wind, but that does sound.
That's why I don't want to specify on what it is, because the third movie is kind of completely unique, and I don't know if I don't think people here would want to get spoiled on the movie specifically.
Yeah. Was it the elevator stuff?
No, not the elevator stuff. Although I did like that they still had the elevator scene, but they changed it. They also still had the escalator scene with Ray, but they changed it. Yeah, as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Wow, nice callbacks. I appreciate it. Thank you."
But then, that's what I love.
Even passing through the same places, and they were just completely different because of the stuff that happened.
The elevator scene might have been one of those. It might obviously there were awesome scenes throughout the rebuild. There were some awesome scenes in the rebuild movies, but the elevator scene was probably one of my favorite callbacks because it just shows that this is completely different. It's just hey, you felt comfortable, but you're fucking wrong.
It's like Ano saying, you know what we did back then? Yeah, no, scrap all that. We're doing a whole different thing. Don't worry about it.
Yep.
And can we talk for a little bit about the other pilots? What did you think? First of all, what do you think of Shinji as a character, and Rei, Asuka, and all that stuff? So I'm very interested in your guys' opinion on the pilots.
I think they're all really realistic. I think if it was in real life, and we were living in an apocalyptic world, a world that had been destroyed by angels and is at war with angels, I think it makes a lot of sense for pilots to act that way. Even me at my current age, I'd probably act just like Shinji. I'd probably be a baby at first. I'd probably be like, no, fuck that. I'm not doing that. That has nothing to do with me. And I like how he was like, no, this war has nothing to do with me. This war has it doesn't even affect me. I don't care about it. He was just kind of passing it, brushing it off that he doesn't really, as if it didn't have anything to do with him. And then the whole series is him basically being like, oh, it does have to do with me, and it has to do with everybody, and that's why we've got to fix this.
Yep. Which is another thing that I love about Rebuild, because without getting into spoilers, Shinji has that again in part 3. He has that one eye-opening episode where it goes from this has nothing to do with me to this has everything to do with me. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about without saying too much. That's for later, but it's one of those eye-opening moments. Ryley says he can't hear me. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
You're a little low, but
it's a little low, but we can hear you.
Okay, I'll try to fix that. Carry
on. I totally understand that bit. It presents a realism, but it also delves into the fantasy aspect, because unlike Gundam, where it's a war, Gundams are tools, they're weapons to be used. This is more along the lines of mechanized kaiju-like beasts taking out really mysterious creatures that even to this day, I don't really understand 100% the true nature of the angels and all that stuff. And it's, there are hundreds of videos online talking about the mythology and the origin of these characters. So I really like that. I like that blend of fantasy and realism in a very interesting way.
The thing is that I don't know if you guys are familiar with the usual conflicts in narrative, how they're usually structured. It's usually a man versus society, man versus self. And the thing about Evangelion is that this is so much for one, it's a man versus self story disguised as a man versus nature or versus God, depending how you want to see it. The story. So it's really a human story disguised as a fantastical story about fighting these creatures. But really, all it is all about self actualization or self acceptance, I guess. Although the rebuild movies kind of mess with that a little bit.
I mean, like the series, I think it's the first. Would you say it's one of the first anime to present psychological themes in the way that it did compared to other shows?
Wait, can you repeat the question?
Like, do you think Evangelion was one of the first shows to delve into psychology and how we react and all that stuff on the show in an accessible way? Or do you think other shows did it better, or what do you think about that? That, like, because usually people refer to Evangelion as what's the right word I can use? Like, yeah, it's very cerebral and it's very psyche heavy on what these characters are going through, and like you said, themes of spirituality and all that stuff. That I keep wondering if it's unique, or do you think other shows pulled this off better in their own way? I don't know if you get me.
I think the psychological aspects in terms of dealing with war, that's definitely had been done before with Gundam. Now, I think that presenting those psychological aspects in kind of like almost a spiritual way, almost the way that they're presenting, specifically, I'm talking about the ending, obviously, but presenting it that way, I do not think it had been done. But I haven't really watched too much anime from anything the 80s and below. I can't really speak on that with any certainty, but I don't think it had been done, at least with that sort of existential, almost transcendentalism. Like, it had never been done like that. At least I don't think so. If it had been done, it was probably by Gainax.
Yeah.
Probably in Gunbuster. I think Adon has just dropped off. Oh, there he is.
There he is again. Yeah. Also, the series, the structure of the series is really interesting, and there's so many motifs and even silly, annoying things like the cicadas. They all serve a purpose, whether it be an audio cue. The series delves into repetition a lot with Shinji with his cassette player, going back and forth between the tracks. You know, this series has been studied for so many years. There's videos on it talking about all the structure that Anno put into the series, and that I don't think it's been replicated, especially nowadays in the Moe and post-Moe era, if you will, where everything's digitized and isekai and comedy based. I don't think we've had too many shows like Eva, and it shows. It leaves a long-lasting impression on the viewer after you watch the series, because it does go into some dark territory. The author suffered through depression, and it shows in his work. It reflects his state of mind in, what was it, 95, 96?
And he's been very open about some of the issues that he was going through while he was making that show. And he even said that a lot of it is reflective of that.
Yeah.
And that is not a slight against it at all. I think that any creator has to channel whatever emotions they're feeling into their work, like whether they're negative or positive. I think that's important.
That super impactful video you linked me, Nelson, from like, he made it like a couple years ago, but it's somewhere in the video he mentions that Anno created Evangelion while he was going through like a 4-year-long depression period. So it's like you can kind of tell from the themes and what the characters go through that when this man wrote it, you know, he was going through it. Like, he was going through it.
And the whole oh my god, what was the name of Shinji's best friend? I forgot his name.
Toji?
Toji.
Yeah, Toji. Yeah.
The series goes through your monster of the week, and then a certain episode happens with Toji, and it just goes into a completely darker direction that I don't think people were ready for that. And we do see a couple of people commenting on how it affected them and how they were not expecting the series to take that turn, and it somewhat affected them in a very, you could say, positive or negative way. I don't want to go too much into that, but we've seen that in the group and elsewhere on message boards and YouTube comments. So, yeah, it shows, like you said, it shows that he was dealing through stuff when he wrote that.
It's also interesting that they went through, well, allegedly and debatably, they went through some production hurdles like budget and stuff like that. So I wonder how dealing with depression when you're also like trying to create a show and you're trying to, make something that's, make something different, make a piece of art, and you're going through that, and just all those issues keep accumulating. Like them actually pulling it off is impressive, especially if they did really not have a budget for the end. Which if they didn't, like, even if they did, they went with what they did, I appreciate it a lot. Like I really like what the direction they went with it.
That iPad 12 video you linked, you also touched upon that specifically, the budget issues, and it wasn't that they didn't have the budget, it was that they didn't have the time, because of the episode
that they scrapped, right?
Yeah, one of the episodes had to be scrapped due to a gas attack somewhere in Japan that resembled exactly like what was going to go on in those scrapped episodes. So they basically had to say, like, all right, scramble something together because we can't use this anymore. Because it's just like Pokemon had to scrap those episodes with like the guns and the cleavage on chains. Like it's just in poor taste to actually go through with it.
Yeah.
Which I prefer to think that is the actual case rather than this series that was so well loved while it was airing and even after it was airing, because never will you hear people say that Eva was one of those series that nobody liked until it was over. If that was the case, I think we would know about it by now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I doubt that, especially with a studio like Gainax. Like they are a big budget studio, and this is not the first mecha that they did. This is not the last mecha that they. But Gainax broke apart already, didn't it?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, they're still around, but I think they're going by different names.
And yeah, like Trigger,
Trigger, Studio Kara. I think there's a couple more that they kind of split into. But they are still functionally working, more or less.
Yeah, so it's just under multiple different names. But what I'm saying is that at the time, I highly doubt that there was not in the budget. It was just like, how do we get an episode out there in the time frame that we do? Which, again, like if you guys haven't seen this Super Eye Patch Wolf video, you guys awesome. Like I'll try to link it in the chat so you can give it a watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at first, just like Ryley in the comments, at first I didn't like the last two episodes. I thought, this is annoying. Like, why do they keep repeating the same things? But on my second watch through, it was more of an experience than just simply sitting there and watching these characters repeat the same things again and again.
Because the first time you're just kind of going through the motions. You're just kind of like going with it, and you're trying to make some meaning out of it, but you don't really have that much, especially when you're watching it. You don't really have much time to formulate thoughts. But after you already have some sort of idea, you actually know what you're getting into.
Yep.
Did you guys know that I think it's the Death and Rebirth movie or the End of Evangelion movie where they show letters, and it was actually death threats and hate letters that Anna was receiving from the fandom because they didn't like how the series ended, and they were really pissed off, so they were sending hate mail and like, we're gonna kill you and all that stuff, and he included that in the scenes for those movies. I don't remember if it's in the compilation movie or the End of Eva, but they're on there, and it's pretty intense.
supposedly the compilation movie was not very well regarded. So maybe people were mad about that they were like that they made a compilation movie to begin with. I don't know. But they probably put that in the end of Eva during one of those like psychedelic scenes. They probably put it like in between one of those things. Just like when they showed like the actual people, like real people, like with actual like not animated or anything like that, like an actual picture of people. And that's haunting because then at that point you're like, oh wow, they're talking about me. Like they're talking about like all of us. Yep. It feels a lot more inclusive because they use that. I know that has nothing to do with what you said, but.
So we've talked a little bit about the themes and how we like the series for a couple minutes, and I want to ask the both of you if you could summarize your experience with Eva and your sort of like a spoiler-free review on the series and the movies. So then we can talk a little bit about some of its meaning and the end, and maybe move on to the rebuild movies. So yeah, if you could give me like a quick summary of what you thought of Evangelion, the whole series, in a nutshell.
I'll let Nelson go first.
Well, I mean, this is one of my favorite series, so I'm very biased here. But anyone who knows me knows that I really like really dense things that you can really like analyze and look at it through all these different views and stuff like that. Because I'm not someone who usually like rereads or rewatches stuff, but with things like this, like I really see the value and I really get more out of it every time I experience it. So even with the rebuild movies, I really enjoyed the direction they went. I know a lot of people didn't like the third movie. I absolutely loved it. They went in a totally different direction, and I thought that's what they needed. And I mean, I'll talk about it more later, but I really like some of the meta commentary they did on that. But yeah, I think that there's been nothing quite like Eva like that, where they've done such a grandiose thing and expressed so many different themes in that way. I don't think it's been done before, and I'm sure there's been a lot of series that have copied it. I know a lot of Gainax series have had similar endings. I don't want to spoil any of them, but there's been a lot of series that have had like endings that like surpass almost like humanity and just gone off the deep end in a good way. But I don't know if it had been done before that. At least not in that way. But if it did, let me know, please. I would really like to know. But yeah, I think it's legendary. I think everyone should watch it. Even if you didn't like it, I think that you'll know why it's a must watch.
It's essential viewing.
Mm-hmm.
I really disliked Evangelion about a year, probably like around 15 months ago. I watched it just so that I could talk. A lot of things I watch are so that I can have discussions with it with my friends Nelson, Gio, Sherlock from the Otakubros farm. That includes Ryley and Kong and them. A lot of the things I watch are so that we can talk about it because that's what makes it a lot more fun for me, is to be able to have someone to discuss these things with. So I decided to give Evangelion a go. I watched the first episode and I said, fuck this shit. And then I came back to it like 2 weeks later and I decided to keep pushing. And then I binged like the last like 6 episodes on top of End of Evangelion in one night, which to me at that point was just I didn't realize it at the time, but it's too much to take in at once. This time around, it's on Netflix. I can watch it on my TV instead of on my laptop, so I can actually be comfortable when I'm watching. I just felt like I could pay better attention to it this time around. And from I remember I watched the first 3 episodes on that Friday when it released. Saturday morning, I woke up early just by chance. My girlfriend was still asleep, so I decided to just sit and watch. And I got through like the first 10 episodes within like less than 24 hours. So that was great. And that's when something clicked in my head and it just clicked with me, which was great. On the spot, I literally opened up my Amazon app and I ordered the first movie because I was like, okay, I need to watch Rebuild at this point. So by the time I was done, I finished the season released on Netflix on like Friday. I was done by Wednesday. I had finished Rebuild by Thursday. It was like something else. It was awesome. I love it. It really has become one of my favorite series. Very quickly shot up to like the top of my favorite series list. And when it comes to things like Evangelion, like Rebuild, it's awesome because it's both something for people that already like Evangelion and something for people that didn't like Evangelion the first time around, because it takes things that you loved the first time and it changes them. So you have something to look forward to, and it takes things you didn't like the first time around and it changes them again. So you have something to look forward to again. Everything that I hated the first time, they changed it. Everything I loved the second time, they changed it. So it's one of those things. It's I don't know if it's, I watched Shin Godzilla a couple months ago, which is also another Anno project, which uses a lot of Ava commentary, meta commentary, whatever you want to call it. It also uses a lot of the same music that Ava does, but again, I've become an Anno fanboy after my second watch through, after watching Rebuild, after watching Shin Godzilla. It's definitely something special, and I'm not entirely sure if I can put into words all the shit that goes through my head while I'm watching it. And this second watch through was more of an experience than a watch through. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Nice. Okay, well, I got two interesting questions for you guys. How do you think? Do you think the end of the first series was it greatly done in your opinion? Because back in the day when it was released, I do remember the controversy surrounding it, because one, a lot of people did not understand what was happening, and two, there was that whole death and rebirth stuff. So when End of Evangelion started, it sort of ends on a big bang cliffhanger where you don't understand, and it requires you to go back and understand, or go back and watch the series in more detail. So do you think, what do you think about the End of Evangelion movie? And two, do you like the transition from that old series into Rebuild? I know there are a lot of theories out there that it's all like a continuous story. I am not a fan of it. Maybe I'll talk about it in a little bit, but I just prefer to see the two things separately. That's just me. But what do you think about that? What do you think about the End of Evangelion and that transition into the Rebuild set of movies?
Well, first of all, I still don't understand the end of Evangelion series 100%. I'm sure none of us do.
I mean,
and I'm sure not even Anno does at this point.
All right, quick spoilers. If you've not watched Evangelion, mute us now, just for a couple seconds. The end of the series, what I always grew up with was that okay, screw it, I'll spoil the word. When the instrumentality stuff happens, I always saw it as death and rebirth is the physical stuff that is happening in the world, and then I saw like End of Evangelion of more of a mental, psychological thing, and the two movies and everything just mixes into a batter, and you do get a finale that is really confusing, but at the same time kind of beautiful. So I always saw it like, all right, you had the finale of the series presented in a I mixed it up, sorry, the end of the series in a more of a psychological thing, and then the movies tell you the physical thing of what was happening. Did you guys think of that, or am I the only one who used that method?
No, absolutely. I think that's kind of what the movies were made of for. They were kind of like a response almost to fan reaction, I think, where they were like, okay, you didn't get it, we'll explain it to you, but we're still not going to make it easy. We're not going to make it easy at all, not even a bit, but we are going to try to do it the way that we kind of probably wanted to do it at first. I don't know if they really wanted to do it like that at first. That's one of those things we'll never really know probably. But I think the transition was nice. I thought it was perfect because they gave us basically all of the answers that we could possibly want. Because I know there's still some stuff that's up in the air that we can't really figure out. And I know some people take issue with when things are so confusing that they kind of can't really figure things out. But I think as long as you can glean some answers from what is there, I think that everything works. I think it all works. And I think you can get multiple facets, multiple versions of answers that all work, and like have that be your head canon and have it work. Personally, I don't really have like one specific thing that I think is canon, but I did derive a lot of different meanings from the end.
I personally, so I want to reserve so just like to compare it to something that's been like studied and criticized to no end. To compare it to something like that, Star Wars, people had fan theories for years about Star Wars, and they blogged about it and they memed about it, and we had so much Star Wars stuff going on to the point where when we actually got some answers, like after The Force Awakens came out, everybody was like, oh my God, Rey needs to be a Skywalker, Rey needs to be a Kenobi. We got some answers to those questions, and people said, oh my God, this movie sucks. Like, I didn't get what I wanted, so this movie sucks. So I'm going to reserve most of my judgments about Evangelion until 444 comes out. Oh, what is it? 3.0 plus 1?
Yeah.
Okay,
that's a handful.
I'm gonna save my judgments to this whole like shared universe theory until the very end. I have read some very compelling arguments, most of them being really long Reddit comments that I read while I was half asleep. I do see why people might think that, the theory is what it is. Again, we're watching out for spoilers right now. One of the craziest things to me about it all is, I know teasing us with the very first scene being the red water in 1.11 and Rebuild 1. The very, again, I don't want to say too much because, when Evangelion 3.0 plus 1 comes out, I want to be the first person to be like, yeah, you see, I was right. But I would hate to go back on my word. So I'm reserving most of my judgments until then. For now, I think that he's doing a great job at keeping people guessing. It keeps Evangelion like almost alive and relevant, I guess. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I'll be at work, it's dead. I'm just like going through my thoughts, and I'm like, hey, remember that one time you watched a show and this one thing happened? What if it means X, Y, Z? And I'm like, holy shit, I'm a genius. So that's where people take it with Evangelion, because there's so much to dissect, so much to read into, that you might be at work one day and think, the red water connects to XYZ. That means that Shinji is actually an Namekian warrior, and fucking Goku's going to come in 3.0 plus 1 and save the whole world. All right.
Perfect. Love it.
That's where I stand on the topic.
I mentioned earlier that I keep them separate because I went with a literal explanation. When 1.0, eventually called 1.11, when it was first coming out, they said, we're going to try and do the ending right, like Anno intended, but presented in like a reboot fashion, like they do with comic books, for example, with Marvel Now or DC New 52. They were trying to streamline the whole thing in a series of, originally it was going to be 3 movies, but then it spawned into 4 movies, and explain everything for new people going in as well as old fans. So in my head canon, I guess I've always seen it like an alternate story, alternate thing. I don't know. They could be connected. We don't 100% know. We don't have that information.
I don't think we can know until that comes out.
Movie comes out.
And even then, it's probably still not going to be very obvious.
So,
if at all, if they even hint about it at all.
Yeah. So, the rebuild movies. We're getting into the movies now. I love them. I adore those movies, and it blows my mind that so many people hate the third movie, because that is probably my favorite out of the three so far, out of the series, simply because it just takes everything you know about Evangelion and just blows it up 10 times more. And it's crazy. You don't expect what happens between the transition of 2 and movie 3. That was unexpected. When I first saw movie 3, I didn't know what the
intro. Those first 30 minutes were perfection. They were so amazing. I was so immersed. I was like, wow, I'm Shinji right now, finding out what happened here. Like, what's going on? It's like you came home and like everything changed.
Exactly.
And as a viewer, you're like, whoa, what?
Why is my adoptive mom being so mean?
Yeah. That was the first clue. Like when everybody's just like angry, but like not the usual way, not just annoyed, but like actually angry.
Mm-hmm. Like you're used to Asuka being who she is. You're not used to Misato being that.
Yeah. That's what really gave it away, because she was the only one that was ever nice to Shinji.
Another thing that threw me for a loop too was that I don't know if I think I sent this straight to Alex, not to the whole group, mostly because I think Nelson hadn't watched it yet. But what threw me for a loop was that they were referring to Shinji. They were saying like, this child matches the third child's biometric signature exactly right. Blah 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 blah. They were talking about him almost like he was like a specimen rather than Shinji from back in the day. Like, yeah, hey Shinji, you're back. It's more like, what is
because at that point he's almost like 3 different things in one. So, so yeah, they kind of did have to test him. I mean, it's not really natural to kind of like merge like that and then come out like, hey, I'm me again. You know, like what happened to the rest? Like, what about the other like souls that you should have?
Are we officially going into spoiler territories, or are we still waiting?
It's kind of hard to talk about it without going into spoilers. I'm having a really hard time. I'm doing some like verbal gymnastics.
All right, all right, so for everybody in the chat and later on, if you have not seen the Evangelion show or the movies, just know that they're great. They're complex. They're a little bit messy at times. They're not perfect, but they're really, really freaking great too at the same time. We're going to head into spoilers. So we sort of just teased about it, and yeah, we cannot do a discussion without going into spoilers. So I really apologize. I know a lot of people hate spoilers. I hate them too. So I'm giving you this long-winded explanation, and I'm buying time so that you know that we're going to go into spoilers and you don't get mad at Omnibus Collectors Network or myself or my 2 besties right here talking about a wonderful anime. So yeah, I've talked long enough. I've delayed it. Let's talk spoilers.
I mean, for what it's worth, I think you can listen to the discussion without really getting too mad about it, because it is a remake. But there are very vast differences, and I think especially for the third movie, I think going into it blind is an experience that should be experienced for sure.
Yeah. So
before we go into spoilers, I just want to give a shout out to L.Denver. He says, do more of this. I'm going to take that to the heart, and I'm going to expect you guys to do more of this with me, okay?
All right.
All right.
That's awesome.
Have a nice night, L.Denver. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, I had some like random people, even on my channel, ask me about it, which is really weird because I didn't really think people care that much, but I'm glad they do. Cool.
It's a long, happy family, and I love every single one that's in the chat. You guys are the best. So thank you. Thank you for the support. And yeah, if Ryley can't host, then you'll see this face hosting, and we'll talk more series. And thank you. I love all you guys, and it's just wonderful. It's a wonderful community that we've built, and that we can transcend the comic book genre and introduce manga topics to people and anime. For anybody that doesn't know, I tend to be more of an anime watcher than a manga reader, but we all complement each other here. And yeah, so thank you. Going back into the rebuild stuff, 1.11 sort of reintroduces the whole series, and it gives you a very straightforward reboot of like the first 8 episodes, and then it ends with a few twists that you're not expecting that changes how the story plays out. It isn't until the second movie, which is meant to be like the culmination of the TV series, where you realize like, holy crap, this is going into WTF territory. And then we get to movie 3, which is sort of like end of Evangelion reimagining, and that's where we're at right now. We've been waiting, and yeah, go ahead and let's start with the spoilers, because I really want to get into the movie talk. What do you think about the crazy changes in Rebuild?
To quote my good friend Alex, Sherlock and Alexi, for those that don't recognize the name Alex, we've been waiting 7 long years for Evangelion 4, 3.0 plus 1.0. Okay. And I don't blame all these people for being pissed about how long they've had.
That's after waiting like several years in between movies with the other ones as well.
like I have it.
It's like a whole like 10-year or more experience.
I have it right here, ready. And again, this is like full-on spoiler talk. So log off if you haven't watched 3.3 just yet. But this is seriously one of like the biggest trips of a movie I've ever had the joy of experiencing. It's fucking amazing. It starts off like a complete shit show. Like, what is actually going on in this world? And just like Nelson said, you're in Shinji's shoes, not knowing what's going on. Everybody's being a dick to you, and you just want to figure out what's going on. Last thing you remember is you're trying to save your friends, and the whole world is upside down. You're on a fucking floating angel, and your mom's being mean to you. What do you do? Quick.
Yeah, that opening scene, you don't expect it because it's so unlike the series and the norm to see basically the good guys being mean to our main character, and you're just as confused. And when the story continues, you start learning that what he did in movie 2 had epic repercussions throughout the whole Earth.
And that's kind of the thing, is like they kind of like almost betray. Wait, what the hell?
What's up?
Oh, okay, never mind. My screen just went black. Okay, but we're all good. Yeah, but it's almost like they betray Shinji and the audience, because at the end of the second movie, you're like, I mean, most people are probably gonna, if they think about it a little bit more, they're gonna be like, okay, yeah, there were definitely repercussions to what he did. But most people are gonna have like the dominating preconception of it was gonna be, hey, Shinji saved Rey. Like, and that's kind of like his perspective as he comes in. He's like, hey, I saved Rey. Where is she? What's going on? Like, I'm the hero now, right? And then like and then they just shut it down. They're like, no, you're not the hero. Shut up. Stand in that corner. Just don't even talk, like, or we're gonna get really mad. And that's kind of the thing that really, like, I read a comment on Reddit that really like changed the way that I thought about the movies, because they said the first movie is just kind of like a rebuild. He's like a little bit more ballsy, but not that much. He's a little bit more outspoken, not as shy, but it's still kind of regular Shinji. Then the second movie is like Anno basically saying, okay, we're going to give you what you want. You guys want Shinji to not be a wuss. We're going to make him a hero this movie, and he's going to go out and he's going to save the girl. He's going to do what he wants to do. And then the third movie is like, okay, yeah, you asked for it, but here are the repercussions. Here's what you asked for it. And I say you as in like you, Shinji, and you, the audience. You asked for it, and now these are the repercussions of what you asked. And I think he's almost like trying to tell the audience that you wanted this form of escapism, and you just couldn't really, and you're just gonna have to face reality. You're gonna have to like really face it now. And And I thought it was brilliant. And there were even points in the movie where they kind of like do these meta references, where they're kind of like, one is like when Kaoru says, "I'm going to make you happy this time," and he says "this time," which is kind of a little odd phrasing. That can be a translation thing, obviously, but it is odd phrasing. And there were a couple other moments in the show where they were kind of like, where they kind of referenced like almost nostalgically something having happened before. Or they refer to it something that happened already as like something that, or something that's about to happen as something that already happened. They just kept doing these like small little subtle references, and like again, it could be a translation thing, but I feel like that gives some credibility to the fact that they're all in sort of the same thing, and maybe the end of Evangelion was some sort of like universe reboot. Because if you think about the end of Evangelion, what really happened there? Did Asuka and Shinji start the world over? Were they the new Adam and Eve? Like what? Like were they just did they just like, I don't know, loof around and not do anything for a while? Like I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. There were a lot of really cool things about the reboot movies. I think a lot of fans didn't really like it because it changed so much. And let's face it, fans never like it when you change, especially already existing canon. They don't like it. Even in remakes, fans just don't like it. I think that's why a lot of people are mad about it. But for me, it's like the series is always going to be there. If you want the series, you can go watch the series. Just watch it again. You can watch it again and again. You're always going to get new things out of it. Let the movies be their own thing.
Exactly. But yeah, that movie, like I said, they're separate things to me, and that love for the series is always going to be there. And I view the rebuild stuff a little bit differently. There's something really interesting about the Kaoru line, because I remember watching, I think it was Crunchyroll that did the mini video on the timelines, and how there's this crazy theory that he is the link through the Evangelion multiverse. So he's trying again and again to make Shinji happy. And I just thought that's
really cool.
If it's true, Kaoru and is in the line. The origin of this theory is from the manga, because the manga, even though the anime was first, the anime was delayed, and the manga came out a couple months earlier. So technically, the manga came first. And at the end of that,
not to interrupt you, but according to Nelson, the manga didn't end until 2012, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, but Jim's right about the beginning, though, because it did start after the anime, but then it actually published before the anime because of the delays with the anime. But then it just took forever to finish.
Yeah. So at some point near the end of the manga, Kaoru, I don't remember what was said, but the theory is that he failed. So all the different, like the video games and the different movies and the marketing campaigns and all that stuff, they're all alternate dimensions or alternate Earths, and he is trying to make Shinji happy. And supposedly, like this Evangelion movie 3.33 is like the final attempt, if you will. So I cannot wait to see what the hell happens in that new movie, especially at the end with spoilers, that kaboom scene near the end with Kaoru.
Oh yeah, which is kind of what happened at the. I mean, it was basically what happened at the end of 2 as well. Like, basically, he stopped what was going on. Like, he stopped instrumentality both times. And also in the original series, I think. So, yeah, he's always, like, stopping it from happening for some reason.
Okay, but he lets it occur for, like, who knows how long, until finally he says, hey, you know what? Maybe it might not be so bad if everybody isn't nice to me all the time. And by the time he realizes that, it's like over half of the world's population is already fucking dead.
That's one thing that confused me at first, because I thought that, like, once the third impact happened, I thought it would be this instantaneous thing. I thought it was just like done. But no, it's a little bit more more gradual than that. It takes some time. That's why the first impact and second impact didn't destroy the whole world, and the third impact in the Rebuild movies didn't destroy the whole world. Just
the third impact in the third Rebuild movies didn't even occur all the way. Like you mentioned the other day, it was more like a half impact. Like, hey, this almost fucked everything up, but we're gonna stop it halfway and hope that the rest. All right, never mind. The world's fucked up. Fast forward 14. Was it 14 or 15 years into the future?
14.
14 years into the future, it's like, hey, we have a flying spaceship now. You want to hop on?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Oh, that's another cool thing. The Curse of Ava. What they refer to it as in the show is probably, they never really specify it, but since Asuka and all the Ava pilots have never aged, and that's probably because they merged with the Ava to some degree, so they just never aged. Like Asuka, if you've noticed, she looks more worn out. Like she has lines under her eyes. So she does look a little bit older, but I think that's just her being worn out. I think that Ava pilots just cannot age because of the nature of being merged with the Ava. But I also think that's also kind of like a meta thing where they're kind of like, yeah, the Curse of Ava is that from a marketing standpoint, we have to keep these characters young to make them marketable. Like it almost seems like Kano is like kind of like reluctantly making a point about it and being like, hey, I don't like this side of Ava. And like that's another thing is like they kind of like put like the new character Mari in there, and she barely had any development. I don't dislike her though. I don't dislike her at all. She barely has any lines really or any role really. She doesn't really do much. She's just an extra player. If anything, she kind of plays like another Asuka a little bit. But she's kind of supposed to be like the escapism side where they're kind of like, okay, you want a character who's just going to go in there and fuck shit up and like be a badass and sing while she fights and be cheery. Here you go. And then there's the actual real side of it.
This is what I feel like I've said this to you like hundreds of times, but you always word things in such a way that's great.
Only in writing.
So, yeah. Well, no, you just said it pretty well right now. You probably wrote this down beforehand. I'm convinced you cheated on this assignment now. Anyway, you just said I didn't even think of that. Like the fact that they're not aging being meta, that's fucking crazy. Second of all, the whole Mari thing, I am convinced that she was only created for Hano to sell more toys. Because there's only there's people out there that will collect every Asuka toy ever. But there's also people that will buy one Asuka toy and then will never buy another one, and will never buy another one again. But will buy a Mari toy because Mari is a new character in Ava. So I wouldn't be low key. I wouldn't be surprised if Ano is trying to target capitalism by being like, here's a character that's gonna receive zero development, but you're still gonna buy her toy because of Evangelion, and you fucking love it.
Yeah, and you got to remember that it is an animated series. It is an entertainment piece. It's a movie or a series, and it has merchandise, and there's this whole structure outside of the story where they want to get and they want to invest on this thing so they get a profit out of it. So yeah, they're gonna sell thousands and thousands of merchandise and figures and statues and all that stuff. I mean, literally, I think I showed it to you guys, the 30-inch long capsule statue.
Yeah.
Those things are like $500, and I guarantee you they will sell out and people will buy them. They're like 30-inch capsules with the I think it's just Asuka and Rey. Like they're inside the Avas. It's such a huge franchise. You even had the friggin' Bullet Train a couple years ago. So it wouldn't surprise me that they're introducing this new character, one, to play off the main cast, because we don't have a lot of characters. Even though it's a large story, it's a very small group of characters that we follow. So adding a new one adds a new dynamic. She's not necessarily the best written character out of everybody, but we'll see. Maybe in the new movie, she has a ton more stuff to do. I don't know. I didn't mind the character too. I thought she was pretty cool, but yeah, I just left it at that.
It's almost like she didn't really have a place along with the other ones because she wasn't broken, you know. And it was just kind of weird having someone who's not broken in that world, who's just taking it in stride, and they're just really happy about piloting an Eva, I guess. And I think maybe that's because she's like, okay, this world is done. This is literally all I can do to help. Maybe that's her mindset. I don't know, but it's cool. I don't really mind her. I didn't like some of the lesser development to Asuka though. I thought they kind of simplified her a little bit too much, to the point where like she even has that scene with Misato that I commented on, where she actually like literally explains her character. She's like, "Hey, Misato, yeah, you know, maybe because I'm a tsundere, but maybe I actually do. Maybe I'm not actually like that, you know. Maybe I don't actually feel that way, feel the way that I say that I do."
So I would never talk like this to anybody, but we are on live TV, so I'm going to tell you about how much I miss my mom and my dog. This is weird, okay? Okay, Misato, bye.
But yeah, I don't think it was like a poorly written scene or anything.
I think it was fucking awful.
I don't know. I think it had a point. I had a reason for that, but I forgot. I actually had some theory about that, but I don't remember what it was. But
what I like about what you pointed out was that Mari was that escapism type of character. Like, you have all these characters from the original series carrying over into Rebuild. Like, I don't think anybody would want to be Shinji. I don't think anybody would want to like watch Evangelion and think, "Oh my god, I wish my dad would hate me and love this weird fire girl, and I would love to have a mental breakdown instead of this giant alien thing. I would love to live with strangers because I have nowhere else to go." But Mari is the exact opposite. Mari's just kind of like, I love piloting an Eva, and I think it's so much fucking fun. Like, I'm gonna scream until this Eva goes beast mode. And
she's almost like Asuka without the issues.
Mm-hmm.
Like who?
Like Asuka, but without the the whole like I don't know what to call it, but the whole thing that she's got going on.
Oh, the baggage. Okay, so Asuka is cool because like she loves piloting her Eva. She takes pride in piloting her Eva. But the thing about Asuka is that she's not doing it for fun. Like she convinces herself it's fun, but she's doing it because at the end of the day she wants to feel some meaning in her life. Because
she wants to be acknowledged. Really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, she just wants to be acknowledged. Exactly.
Like Shinji, just like Rei, just like Gendo, even honestly. Although his motives are a little bit more, I don't know. We could talk about his motives a little bit because I'm kind of curious what you guys think about like Rei and Gendo. But Gendo specifically, I'm really curious about, especially in lieu of the movies. I think like it brings like a new perspective to what his motives might be. Because in the series, I think it's pretty. I wouldn't say obvious at all, not even by a stretch, but it's fairly canonical that he's doing it to reconnect with his wife. I think everyone mostly agrees with that, but there's also like the humanitarian aspect, and I feel there is a humanitarian aspect. I feel like part of it is him actually doing what he thinks is the best to keep humanity going forward, or maybe I don't know, maybe forcing a new evolution, but that's like a whole different theory.
I want to say that Gendo's motive is pretty evident pretty early on in the Evangelion series. I don't know, it's all still really fresh in my mind from last week, but do you remember that one episode where Shinji, no, not Shinji, why am I forgetting her name?
Rei?
Asuka. The worst moment.
Asuka, Rei, Mari?
Asuka, Rei. This is the worst.
Misato?
Misato goes to that conference with Ritsuko, and that scientist team from the U.S. is showing off their version of an Eva, and they're like, "Ha, silly woman, you think that whatever you're doing in Japan is better than us, haha." And then as soon as their pilot gets in, this shit goes berserk, and it just starts walking all over the building that they're in, and she has to put on this like hazmat suit so that the radiation doesn't kill her. And by the time she gets inside, she realizes that this was not an accident. Somebody plotted this thing to happen. And then at the end of the episode, you see Gendo with one of his assistants, and they're saying something like, everything went according to plan. And Gendo's like, you're right. Everything did go according to plan. So it's like, holy shit. This guy has had an agenda this whole time.
Because he's following Seal's plan and hiding that from the rest of Nerve. But he's also got his own plan with Fuyutsuki, which has something to do with his wife Yui, which is probably to reunite their souls, maybe resurrect her. Although I think that's a little bit more of a stretch. I think it has something to do with like maybe like achieving singularity and like connecting with her soul. I think that's the most likely thing. But
it's obvious that the whole point of this has been to discredit every other country's attempt to create an angel fighting weapon. Well, that's what I'm getting at. Is that he wants to be the only person in charge of all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's another weird aspect they never really touch is like the other countries. Like they touch on it a little bit, like by bringing in Mari, for example, and things like that. But they don't really touch on what's going on in the rest of the world. Like, is it just as messed up as Japan? Are they having their own fights? Are they fighting different angels? Probably not, because the angels are attracted to Lilith. That's why they're attacking the Nerve the whole time. So they probably don't even have this issue. But that begs the question, like, what are they doing? Are they just supporting them? Because sometimes they're like, okay, we're going to need to call Europe. We're going to need their help. Like, they're always like, there is that aspect, but they're never really showing like what's going on in the rest of the world. Are they just developing things? Like, what are they doing?
I think like the rest of the countries are, they believe the lie that's been presented to them, similar to how the main, like the Nerve staff and the side characters, they believe one thing, that they're just fighting the huge monsters to save the world. So they want to do that, and they're a little bit clueless on the stuff that's happening behind the scenes with Sele and Gendo and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Seal is kind of interesting too because I mean, I don't know. They really just want to achieve sort of immortality in their own way. Yep. Now, whether they want it for only themselves or for everyone, that's kind of like left up in the air.
Mm-hmm. I'd love that you can't see them. It's just the tablets. I found that.
Like, is it one person from like each country? Is it just a bunch of important people? Or, I don't know. I'm kind of curious, but I don't think they ever go into that. Even in the extended universe, they probably don't touch on it too much.
I'll bet you any amount of money. One of the people
probably. I mean,
I'm surprised he hasn't jumped on the bandwagon and put up a Ray profile picture or something like that. Ray is only 2 years away.
Oh,
we're gonna have cloning.
No, technically, Evangelion started in like 2015. You know, episode 1 took place in like 2015.
Oh,
right?
You mean yeah.
There you go.
Speaking of Ray, do you like the changes to her character as well as Shinji between the series and the movies? Because I happen to prefer the movie versions of these characters more than the TV. I really like what they did with Shinji and Ray. They gave them a little bit more personality. They fixed a couple things. You know, the flaws are still there, but it's a little bit more relatable somewhat. I don't know. What do you think?
I liked it too. I'm with you there. Shinji, hands down, I like what they did because they still showed his like iconic like wuss moves, but they still made him. But they made him overcome those a little bit more easily, which is cool. Like they still make you kind of go through the motions. They still make you feel like helpless and stuff like that. But they develop it more organically. Ray as well. Like Ray, the whole dinner party that wasn't in the original, right? She never planned that. Yes, so that was really cool. That was something that I never would have thought, and that shows like a huge change because I mean we could always chalk up like her lack of personality in the original to her being a clone. But in the rebuild, she's still a clone, but she still has a developing personality, which I think feels more natural. And then later on, when we get introduced to like her other clone after regular Rey has merged into Unit 1, her clone is like having some sort of existential crisis when she realizes that she's not the one, she's not the Rey that everyone keeps talking about. And she almost has this kind of like, oh, that's not me. It's almost like haunting how she's like reacting to all of that. And I think even though it's not the regular Rey that everyone's accustomed to, I think it still gives more to her growth. And I think is interesting.
Rey likes to read books. What kind of books does Rey and Ami like to read?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious too. Yeah.
I thought that was like a pretty heartbreaking couple of scenes. After like 3 or 4 days of Shinji bringing her books and checking up on her, she's not there. The stack of books is only getting bigger and bigger.
Sounds like my friends with manga recommendations.
Yeah, but we're gonna be serious right now. We're gonna get emotional here. I thought it was pretty heartbreaking. You know, Shinji thinks that, you know, he's thinking that he saved his friend. You know, Rey took the time. I know that she's technically a clone of Shinji's mother and all that, but she took the time. They have that one scene where she's having dinner with Gendo, and she says, "Why can't we have dinner with the other children? You know, why can't we reach out to the other children? Can I make the dinner?" You know, they have the little scene where she has the Band-Aids, and
I like how she asks about it too.
Yeah,
because she asks about it in the way that is so like, oh, does society think that these things are fun? Do you think these things are fun? Is this something that I should think is fun? Like, that's how she's like kind of like thinking, like trying to learn how to think by basically trying to learn how to think what she should be thinking at those certain points, which kind of brings to mind other like existential questions about the way that we act. But, you know, that's a whole different thing.
Again, so many layers to like Evangelion, so many things that you can question. But she's questioning Gendo, and at first Gendo is like, no, bad on you for having your own thoughts. And eventually, like, it strikes him that he created a human, not just like a fucking thing or whatever. And he's like, okay, I guess we can have dinner with my crybaby son, whatever. And then they have that one scene where she shows her Band-Aids and she says, "Oh, Miss Ritsuko put them on me. You know, I've been learning something else." And you're thinking, what the fuck is going on? Like, is she hurt? But it's something so much better than that. She's learning how to cook so she can make food for Gendo and her friends. And the one thing that makes Rey so boring in the original Evangelion is that she doesn't do anything. She just shows up, she's there, she fights. She kind of has that one emotional connection with Shinji, with I think it's Angel number 8, the one that is like an eyeball and then has like 2 separate eyeballs on the side. Yeah. Where she uses
I think it's 8.
Yeah, she uses a landmine to break through the. Oh, side note. Angel number 8 in the rebuild movies, they like recolored it and made that shit look fucking gorgeous. It's amazing.
The glowing looked really good.
Yeah, it had like some rainbow feature going on. It was awesome. Good for them on that. That was a great remake. Anyway, she has a moment where she snaps and she tries to save Shinji at the cost of her own life, and that's the first time in the original series that you see Rey humanized, as opposed to just some girl that's been chosen to pilot an Eva and die piloting an Eva and just being all around just boring.
Yeah.
But they brought some character into her, and that's awesome. But then they take it a step further in the rebuild. You know, she's realizing what it is to have friends. She's realizing what it is to do something nice for her friends. And in that very thing, it's like a 30-minute cut where she goes from having cuts on her fingers, learning how to cook, to actually making the meal, to eventually sacrificing herself for Shinji, because that's the exact moment where he decides to run away and come back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he comes back there. Yeah.
Yeah, so he runs away. He comes back, realizing that he fucked up and Rey is dying because of him. He realizes that he's fucking.
That's another interesting thing because Shinji saved Rey, or tried to save Rey, but then he wasn't able to save Asuka. So it's and Asuka's she seems mad about it. She seems like she's kind of oh, so you save Rey, but you don't save me, and now I have this eye to show for it. I wonder if that kind of played a part in how Asuka kind of felt or not. Even though I don't think Shinji really did it like that, I think Shinji almost saved her because he couldn't save Asuka to begin with. I feel like that was almost a reactionary thing where he was oh, I regretted not saving her in the past, so now I'm going to save this other person, And I don't think it really had anything romantic to do with it. I don't think that was any part of it. I think he was just really oh, I messed up in the past. Now now I want to save this person. I want to take matters into my own hands because now I know why I'm piloting this robot.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to hear Gio talk about it. I feel like Nelson and I are doing most of the ranting right now.
Yeah, no, I just love listening to you guys because you go really in depth about the series and find interesting points that I hadn't thought about, and I actually do want to watch it and watch the movies again for the 100th time to pick up on these things because it is at the end of the day, Rebuild and the original series, it's a fantastic spectacle about broken people trying to cope with an even larger tragedy, and the way every character behaves, we see that in real life, and we understand that people are flawed, they're damaged, but we're trying to get by and we're trying to keep moving forward. And I think that's one of the most important aspects that sometimes gets a little bit overlooked. I love the idea that the Rebuild movies, what was it? You cannot advance, you cannot reduce, stuff like that, where they're not only doing meta commentary on the fandom, but they're also trying to teach you a lesson about human interactions and how important it is to grasp them if you can, and not shut yourself in like Shinji with the hedgehog's dilemma and stuff like that, and how important it is to have that bond of friendship and family and all that stuff. And people do suffer, unfortunately. That's not their fault. They do suffer because they don't have that stuff. So I always cherish Evangelion for reminding me of that stuff, and the movie just perfects it in a way where, like you said, with Rey and the cooking stuff and the scenes where she's trying to connect with Shinji because she idolizes Gendo and now has Shinji next to her, so she's also trying to understand him, and everybody's just trying to understand each other. They're all confused, and it's a beautiful thing. I really like, what I like most about Evangelion is the character interactions, actually, now that I think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I came to that same conclusion halfway through the series. You come for the giant kaiju fights, but you stay for the characters.
Like when you're starting the series, you're like, giant monsters fighting other giant monsters, but then you're sobbing about existential crisis and, and depression and human feelings and all that stuff. It's a very powerful series, and I think
that's what it comes down to. Yeah, I mean, Shinji, at the end of the day, that was really it. It's just Shinji basically saying I want to live. I actually want to live. That's the whole thing. Is him okay, I'm gonna accept myself. I'm gonna live. Because at first you were just going along with things, with a lot of people probably are, especially young people who probably watched this back in the day. They were probably going through not periods of maybe not doing much, and they were just and they just kind of had to say yes to life, like Shinji had to do. Yeah. At the end of the main series, I think the movies are going to take a different approach.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Congrats.
Speaking of that, by the way, we're running a little bit late here, and I do want to get to the chat because they're awesome and we love the chat. I have one final question for you guys before we take it to a little Q&A, maybe, if that's okay with you guys. What are you expecting out of the finale? Because it is coming, 2020. What are you expecting, or what do you hope to see at the end of Rebuild of Evangelion?
To bring it back to my point from earlier in this discussion, I feel like Evangelion is one of those 90s properties that's being revisited in the 2010s, early 2000s or 2010s, where things, like Star Wars with the prequel movies and the sequel trilogy, where people are gonna expect it to suck. And I personally like the sequel trilogy. I hate the fucking prequels, fuck them. But I like the sequel trilogy. And other most people on the internet seem to hate them. Evangelion is one of those properties where I feel like Anno is doing an amazing job. He saw what people loved about the original series. He took his time. He took 12 years before 1.0 came out to decide what people really loved about it. He rewrote it. He kind of condensed it. What is it, like 2 years later, 2.0 came out, started changing things. Like 4 years later, 3.0 came out, and all of a sudden it's a complete beast. It's been 7 years. I expect him to, come, like, not hold anything back. And I want to say that I expect to be disappointed because that's what everything 90s seems to be nowadays. But I trust in our boy Anno, and I know that he's going to deliver. And I know this fourth movie is going to be the deciding factor of whether people love or hate the rebuild movie.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just want a satisfying conclusion. To be honest, I just want to get some of the answers. I know we're not going to get everything, but I want to be, even if it's a sad ending, I just wanted to have like a definitive ending. Because when the first series finished, when the series finished, actually, there was so much left to the imagination, and it was years and years of fan theories and people just, what the hell happened? What did this mean? What did Ritsuko say at the end to Gendo? What did this happen? I just want like a solid thing, because when they first started the movies, it was to explain the story better and put a definitive ending to it. And I really want to see that. So I will be a little bit disappointed if it ends with like a giant mystery and then we're going to be left dumbfounded because they didn't explain everything. So please, Anno, at least give us some type of closure to the franchise if you're no longer going to do more stuff.
We're not getting any closure from that man.
Damn it. Don't jinx it.
He's going to release Evangelion 4, like Rebuild number 4, and then he's gonna pull an Alan Moore and just go off into the woods, grow a beard, and become a hermit.
Probably.
He's gonna be like I said, like Alan Moore mixed with Miyazaki. Like, anime was a mistake. I should have never made those movies.
He reminds me more of a Morrison sometimes.
I agree. I'm a bit of both, actually.
Especially with like the trippy endings that he always likes to do. But I don't know. From the fourth movie, I'm actually going to go in a different direction. I do want it to be a little bit more firm in what it means. But I do want there to be enough to chew on that. Not that I don't want the ending to be definitive, but I want there to be enough to chew on, that I can basically analyze it as much, or at least nearly as much, as End of Evangelion. I want there to be like just enough meat there that I can like, okay, maybe this, maybe that, you know? But I do want some things to be a little bit more cemented. But I don't know if he's gonna go the same direction though. Are we gonna have another impact? Or is there gonna be Is there going to be another singularity? Like, is that going to be a thing again? Is he going to say no this time? Is he going to say yes this time? Is that going to happen at all? Is it going to be maybe someone else? I mean, probably not. Probably going to be Shinji, but yeah. I don't know. It seems like they're doing away with Shinji being the hero at all, completely. And maybe turning it into like a story about like humanity surviving, maybe, or I don't know. I even have theories that maybe this was all like a plan to force humanity to evolve into another life form. Maybe, I don't know. That's just one of the theories I got floating around. Maybe the plan all along was to turn humanity into an angel, so that you know, they live on without despairing opinions and stuff like that. That was the whole thing with that Shinji said no to. Was like, if everyone's going to be together, that means everybody covers everybody else's flaws, but they also kind of cover everyone else's like positive qualities. You know, everyone just kind of becomes the same. So what's the point? You know. So I don't know. I'm really curious what he's going to do with that. I wonder if it's going to end in a poetically similar way, or if it's going to have maybe just a parallel ending, where it's going to be a very similar but a whole different thing. I'm not sure. Honestly, he could do anything with it. The way that they usually go with those grandiose endings, he could do almost anything he wants with it, and it probably would work.
I mean, the buildup has been so large, and like I remember there was the oh my god, what do you call it? The slice of life school stuff. If it goes back into that, I'll be happy too, because that stuff was pretty fun.
Yeah, I don't mind that stuff at all.
But yeah, Evangelion is such a larger than life anime that I think one, people are not going to be satisfied, and two, like you said, everything is in the air right now. At the end of the movie, we see our main three heroes, if you will, walking through a deserted post-apocalyptic landscape. So we don't know what they're heading into. Hopefully, it's great. We'll see. Eventually, when the movie comes out, God willing, we're all still here, and we'll do a freaking review on it and talk more in depth about rebuild of Evangelion and Evangelion as a whole, because it's a fascinating, funny little franchise.
And fingers crossed it actually comes in a year.
Oh,
I will be the first to say the world will end before we get
Evangelion 3+1. That's it.
Oh my!
Oh, it was Ano's plan all along. You just had to get the pieces in place. He's really Gendo.
There you go.
Oh my god! Hold on, let me look into this guy's Wikipedia page. Find out more about it.
So yeah, that's. I hope the chat and everybody watching, wherever you may be, you enjoyed this episode. You enjoyed us geeking out about Evangelion. If anybody in the chat has any questions, I was focused on what we were talking about and listening to these wonderful gentlemen dissecting the Evangelion series. So I'm sorry about that. But if anybody has any questions that they want to ask us, now's the time to do it before we wrap up. So anything you guys want to add, or if you see any questions in the chat that you want to answer, go right ahead.
The chat has been pretty quiet for a while.
Oh, it's pretty quiet. They're in fascination with us.
Someone said, "Comic Dad TG said you sound good, Nelson," and I have to agree. Nelson, you sound great.
Wonderful. He's like, the way that he explains things, I'm like, yeah, teach me more. I love it.
Mind blowing. And 5 minutes later,
I can't put ideas together when I'm talking. I'm more of like a write things, like erase the whole thing, then write it again, then erase it again because I'm not confident about it, and then write it again. So when I talk, I'm just like, all right, whatever goes out.
It doesn't matter because like I told you, like he puts things in ways that makes me realize that I've been wrong my entire life. So you're right. Naruto is just a commentary about the modern day teenager Nelson. Okay, you got me, bro. Keep going, please. Let me listen.
Oh my god, now you're making me sound pretentious.
I'm kidding.
Nah, I know.
Comic Dad, what manga should Jess and Gabe read for the charity thing? I'm still working on it. I need to do a little meeting with the whole Omnibros team, but we're gonna pick something interesting for them to review. I don't want to do ecchi, raunchy stuff because that's gonna leave a bad impression, and I want them to come out as potential manga readers in the future. So I want them to get a good title.
Something with minimum tropes.
Yeah, something like anybody could enjoy, and it's not. Yeah.
Maybe like a one, like a one and done, one volume thing. Get them to read it, get them to love it.
Yeah.
The manga's fucking awesome. You can go from there.
It's tough actually recommending something like that when I'm done. I mean, I know Jess liked Ito before, and that's about it. But even then, he sounded like lukewarm about it.
We'll see.
You could say you're lukewarm about Solon until you actually get into it, because on the surface level, you think it's going to be a story about a young girl going through a breakup. Like, yeah, it's about that, but it's also about a lot more. You know, there's so many layers to it. You gotta.
Nelson, would Solon be good?
Would be amazing.
I would probably recommend Solon to most people, but I think that Gabe and Jess are a little bit outside of the age range that it would impact them, I feel like. So I don't know. I feel like Solon is probably good until you're maybe I mean, I think it's good any time, really, but I think it's really going to hit you if you're like under 30. I think if you're going through or have been through like your mid-20s and that kind of like crisis that I'm assuming most people go through, I think it would impact them more. But I don't think for them, I don't think it's a good recommendation. Maybe Nijigahara Holograph would be a good one. It's a one and done. It's dense, but it's also confusing, and I don't know, that might be a turnoff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a tough choice.
You need to. Like you said, when you flip it, you got to flip back and forth through all the pages to really like.
Yeah, it's very demanding. I think it's a little too demanding. It's like giving like an Alan Moore comic to like someone who's new to comics. You know, I think it's a little too much.
I don't have any comics in the room with me right now. No, I don't have any manga in the room with me right now. Nothing that can be consumed easily.
I don't know, maybe Akira. I mean, I haven't read Akira yet, but maybe Akira would be good. I don't know. Are you looking for something that's like shorter? I don't know.
I think.
Wait, who is Comic Dad TG? Is he part of the group?
Comic.
I mean, I'm assuming so.
Comic Dad, are you in the group? Because I tend to forget. I'm sorry. If you are, I apologize for forgetting, but.
Everybody should use their real names on YouTube so I can talk to you like I know you.
Ah, Travis. It's Travis.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Oh, my God. Travis. Hi. I love you.
Oh, man. So, yeah, we'll figure it out. Don't worry about it, guys. I'll talk about it with the bros.
What's that? The book by Kago.
Dimension 21?
Dimension 21, wouldn't that be awesome? Especially for some like Gabe definitely likes that like existential horror shit, right?
I mean, Dimension 21 has stories revolving around old people, first and foremost. So it's like an Ito book with that as the theme. So like there's like a story where like a woman forgets things, and like when she forgets them, they actually disappear IRL. And then, like, at the end, she remembers them all, but she remembers everything kind of jumbled, so everyone just comes together. Everyone that she forgot comes to life, but, like, jumbled up. That's not really a spoiler because these are one-and-done stories. But it's kind of things like that. It's really silly, and it's kind of like it's like uncomfortable, kind of like Ito is. I don't know.
Dreaming. My only issue with recommending Grand Blue Dreaming is because we've had some people on the farm commenting on the brand of comedy that it can get to.
It's dependent on tropes, I think.
It is very much like the best friend, the otaku kid being an otaku, lots of off of comedy comes from that. Although I think it's fucking hilarious. But I don't think someone like Jess would really appreciate it. He'd probably think this guy's weird for liking manga while I'm reading manga. It really has to be like a very, very hyper. Oh, fucking Vinland Saga. Why don't we just get some Vinland Saga and get them to read that?
Vinland is in the list. The only reason I haven't recommended it is because I haven't read it. But it is on the list of stuff that I think we should recommend. But we'll see what happens.
I've read half of volume 1, and I can say half of volume 1.
I'm going to pitch just one more thing before we drop this, but Bakuman might be interesting because you would find out about the manga industry as a whole, and it's fairly long, but it's doable. Mm-hmm. And it's by the Death Note creator, so you already know that there's like a pedigree there.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I think it's about time we wrap up. We've gone on for almost 2 hours, right?
Damn.
Yeah. It was supposed to be an hour, but we love talking, so that's what happens.
I think Gio talks way too much.
That's like me trying to film a 15-minute haul and it ends up being like an hour. Because I ramble too much about things.
Yeah, no. Thank you to the chat for being wonderful. I love you. We love you. Hopefully, we can do this a lot more often. Obviously, there are other shows in this network, in this YouTube channel. So, what I want is twice a month. But for now, let's see what happens, and hopefully, we can get some of the other guys from our channel in this episode series talking about manga, and we'll see what happens next episode. If there isn't a huge news story, we might I kind of want to talk about One Piece or Berserk or some famous manga like that. Probably One Piece because it's huge and we can just get started in talking about arcs and stuff and all that crazy stuff that happens in One Piece. But yeah, let's see what happens, and we'll get back to all of you guys. So thank you so much, Adonis, Nelson. You guys are fantastic, and I thank you for helping me, do this episode because I couldn't do it by myself without help from you, wonderful guys. So thank you.
Hey, thanks for having us, and thanks for giving into our pestering.
Yes, Philip. One Piece is very famous. One Piece. At this point, One Piece is what, like the anime is 20 years old. How old is the manga at this point?
22.
22. There you go. 22.
I think
wow.
It was either earlier this summer or sometime this summer that the manga will be 22 years old because it started the same year.
All right. Well, I have decreed it. Next episode, we're going to be talking about One Piece. So there you go. I'm hyped now. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to chat. Nelson, where can they find you on the internet if they want to get in contact with you? Your YouTube thingamajig.
Ellie.
We have lost our friend Nelson.
Yeah. My bad. I got roommate even though I locked my door. I don't know how that happens, but
it's okay. Don't worry about
it.
Where can they find you on the internet and your YouTube channel and all that stuff?
They can find me at Sequential Consequence. It's kind of a mouthful, but I've been in chat. Just click my name on there, and if you want to see manga hauls, I'll probably do some other stuff eventually if I am ever not lazy. I want to start doing like reviews and stuff like that.
Yeah. All right.
Man, if you like that stuff and you like rambling, I ramble a lot. Yeah, go check it out.
Awesome. And you, Adonis, my friend, where can they find you?
You can find me in the Otaku's Farm on Facebook, where I will post a lot of stupid shit that people will probably make fun of me for. Or you can check out my live cams and you can tip me off, okay? You can just search my name to find it.
All right, there you go, guys. You can find me at A Week in Geekdom here on YouTube, where I talk about anime, manga, comics, and everything else in between. That's A Week in Geekdom. So for everybody here tonight, for the chat, and all the wonderful people watching later on replay, thank you so much. It's been awesome. Blessings to everybody. And yeah, we'll catch all of you on our next live stream, hopefully soon.